Next week we mark the first year of the terrible war in Ukraine, the full-fledged invasion by Russia against Ukraine. And we see no signs that President Putin is preparing for peace. What we see is the opposite. He is preparing for more war, for new offensives and new attacks. So it makes it just even more important that NATO allies and partners provide more support to Ukraine.
A rallying call, but signs the West may be growing fearful of Vladimir Putin's next move. As we approach 1 year since the Russian invasion, the Ministry of Defense believes the Kremlin has already given orders for a brutal advance. The front line is the eastern city of Bakhmut, and after months of fierce fighting and brave Ukrainian resistance, Putin's forces are circling. Officials say the bombardment is crazy and chaotic, with no one except military members allowed in. This footage from pro-Russian mercenaries the Wagner Group appears to claim progress near the besieged city. But what would Russian victory here mean for the war, and where else might they look to target?
Bakhmut's an important strategic town. It kind of sits on the border between the two main provinces, Luhansk and Donetsk. But the nature of the countryside means that you take one town, you've got to move on to the next. So that's the way in which they'll be operating. But it would absolutely fit with their pattern in the past, where they concentrate massively to achieve a particular target, and they move on to something else from there. Putin's a bad and dangerous man. He has a vision. He may not be very well, and he's got a vision of a greater Russia. Individuals like that are dangerous because they're not necessarily thinking rationally about how can we sustain this. They're thinking, how can I have some kind of decisive victory? And that's what he might be trying to do.
Back in Russia, the US Embassy has issued a chilling warning. They're advising no Americans to travel and urging any citizens already there to leave immediately. It's thought Putin could even force them into fighting for Russia, with reports the president is fixing his aim on a new target. Both Vladimir Zelensky and the Moldovan president think it's her country which could be next.
The plan for the next period involves actions involving saboteurs with military training dressed in civilian clothes who would undertake violent actions, attack government buildings and take hostages. The purpose of these actions is to overthrow the constitutional order, change the legitimate government to an illegal one, which would put our country at the service of Russia in order to stop the process of European integration, but also so that Moldova could be used by Russia in her war against Ukraine.
But what about the experts? Almost 1 year since this deadly conflict began, what might the war look like in another year's time?
This year is when the effect of sanctions, the effect of reducing their income will start to take effect. So I think this year is absolutely a very crucial year. Where do you think we're going to finish? It's very hard to tell. At the moment, one doesn't see much in the way of sides being willing to negotiate, and it really is not for us in the West here to be telling the Ukrainians when they should and should not negotiate with the Russians. I mean, they're determined to fight, but realism may take over at some point.
Well, allies have now met to discuss more and continued support for Ukraine in its fight for freedom. But with Russia regrouping and warnings the West is running low on ammunition, this war seems very far from over.